We're going to talk about the upcoming New York Stock Exchange lunar return cycle. You can see the chart off to the side. We always want to start with the planet Vader, and you can see it there in the 8th house. It's in the sign of Pisces. And so first we're going to look at the aspects to Vader. So we want to start with looking at Jupiter there in the 11th house at 1 degree Gemini. It is squaring Vader. This is very strong because Vader happens to be in its home in that deep Scorpio 8th house, and then Jupiter's over there in the 11th house. It's bringing in the Aquarius side of the 11th house, which is extreme. So we're going to see a lot of upside to the stock market. Things are going to go up during this monthly cycle. Also, we want to look at Mercury. It's also squaring Vader. What's important is that Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, so it's bringing in some of that Venus factor, which is just adding to upward movement of this index. Also, we want to look at the difficulty with Vader. It is forming a 15-degree aspect to the 8th house cusp, and it's forming a 30-degree aspect to Pluto. These are both difficult, but that Jupiter is much stronger than these two negative aspects. So next we want to look at the rulerships of Vader. It's in the 8th house. It's in the sign of Pisces. What's interesting here is that Vader is in its home, the 8th house, so we're not going to go looking for some other planet. What we just said about Vader sort of counts twice because it's ruling its own house. We're also going to move on to the ruler of Pisces, which is Neptune. You can see Neptune there in the 9th house at 29 of Pisces. What's interesting here is it's also forming a positive aspect to Jupiter and Mercury in the 11th house again. Very positive. It's going to push this index higher. And then Neptune also forms a sextile to Pluto there in the 7th house. Very good, very positive. Next, we want to look at the 8th house cusp. You can see it there at 17 degrees of Aquarius. We talked about how Vader is forming that 15-degree aspect to that cusp. We said that earlier. But right now we want to look at the moon in the 10th house in Aries, 19 degrees. It's forming a sextile to this house cusp. But I don't think the moon is going to do much here. The moon doesn't like being in the 10th house. It also doesn't like being in the sign of Aries. So I wouldn't think this would mean much. It's not going to add a whole lot to this chart. And then last, we also have Pluto forming a 15-degree aspect to that house cusp as well. It's difficult, but the house that it's in is kind of benign. And then last, we want to look at the sign on the 8th house cusp, and you can see Aquarius is there. So we want to look at the ruler of Aquarius, which is Uranus. Well, Uranus is over there in the 11th house in its home at 24 degrees of Taurus. And so we want to look at the aspects to this planet. First, the obvious one is Mars in the 10th house in Aries. It's forming a 30-degree aspect to Uranus. This is really tough and difficult because Mars really doesn't want to be in that 10th house. The 10th house is the house of Capricorn. It's slow, patient. It's sort of the brake of astrology, whereas Mars is the accelerator. It wants to move forward. So when you get a difficult aspect, it's a tough one. Fortunately, Uranus is making a couple of really good aspects. So you can see Uranus trining Ceres in the 6th house. And you can also see the sextile to Campania in the 12th house. Both of these go a long way to offsetting that Mars aspect. So it's probably not that big a deal. So during this lunar cycle, expect the New York Stock Exchange to go up maybe 3 to 5%, which will likely mean new all-time highs. So that's everything that I can see in this chart. So that's it for this cycle. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.